Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm Taryn, your host for Paranormal Brew every Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. or 8:35, I should say. I always say 8:30, but it's really 8:35 p.m. Eastern time. Tonight, I have a wonderful guest, Michelle Ruess. If you have never heard of her, I'm sorry. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. She's so nice. She puts a lot into the community, into the paranormal field. So tonight we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to get into it. First, though, really quick, I want to give a shout out to some of my family watching. Kristen, hi, babe. Doug, what's up, Doug? I paid rent before you start tonight. That's good. I'm so happy you guys are here. So anyway, I'm going to read her bio before bringing her on. Oh, I also want to point out, I started a new thing that I've never done. So my hair has been like this ever since I was 16, just long and straight. Not even kidding you. I have pictures. So I started to put colored extensions in my hair. And for this couple of months, I don't know if you can see. Hold on. It's really hard. But it's pink. So I have pink highlights in my hair and I love it. I can wash my hair with them in, blow dry my hair with them in, straighten it. But yeah, it's so cool. I think it's cool. I don't care what anybody else says. But hey Ray. Hey Ray. Oh look. Here's my Stevie. Hi Truth or Demons podcast. Please go like, subscribe, and follow her. She's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's something different for me. Destination Spooky, another awesome channel for you to go like and subscribe to. It's a travel channel and goes to all kinds of cool, mysterious, abandoned places that I love. Ray, I don't want to leave Ray out. Flumeri Promotions and Flumeri Paranormal, if I'm saying that right. Ray, please correct me, my love. Yeah, I know. And now, like, Pink Pony Club has a whole new meaning for me. I'm like, yes, I'm a part of it. Yes, the pink. Next time I have like purple, I have burgundy, and I'm waiting for my Tiffany blue to come in because it's back ordered. So, what did I say something wrong? Tell me. Waiting for my Tiffany blue ones to come in. So enough about this, because I want to bring Michelle on. She's so awesome. Like, I want to talk about all her stuff. Ray says, I've been coloring my hair for years. I won't tell you where, though. He said you said it perfectly. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Hi, Carmen. How are you, honey? All right. So, Michelle Ruess, renowned physical medium, which I've never heard that term before, so I do want to learn a little bit about that. Demonologist, exorcist, and paranormal research specialist. Michelle Ruess is an internationally recognized physical medium and psychometry specialist. Wow, lots of big words for me. Known for her extraordinary abilities and deep commitment to helping others navigate the supernatural. As an ordained minister and certified expert in metaphysics, divinity, I can never say this word, divinity, and spiritual warfare, Michelle brings a rare combination of spiritual insight and academic understanding to every case she undertakes. A respected demonologist with specialized knowledge in satanic cult activity and malevolent forces, Michelle has become a trusted resource for individuals and families seeking clarity, protection, and healing. She is the founder of Riverside Iowa Paranormal, where she leads investigations both locally and across the globe, often taking on some of the darkest and most complex hauntings and spiritual disturbances. Michelle is also passionate about mentorship, offering guidance and education for individuals, especially children, um, who are developing psychic abilities, helping them embrace their gifts safely and responsibly. I love it. Um, and I have so many questions already, and my ADHD is probably going to forget all the questions I want to ask her. So, as I normally do, hopefully the conversation just takes itself and we I remember my question. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the lovely Michelle Ruess. Hello.
Hey everyone. Well, I got to start with I don't have pink, but I got 4:30 hair because I've been up since 4:30 working today. So
Girlfriend,
hopefully it looks as fabulous as yours.
you look fabulous. You always look fabulous, no matter what. I wouldn't know you've been up since 4:30 if you'd know if I was up since 4:30.
A whole bunch of coffee and a lot of sarcasm. That's how I get through the day.
I love it. Welcome to Paranormal Brew, my love. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a busy lady and you got lots going on, which I do want to get to that eventually. I want you to promote yourself and give everybody where you're going to be at. But I love your bio and I have lots of questions because there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm unfamiliar with. So I love having guests on that do things that I don't know about, that I've never heard of and stuff like that. So let's start kind of at the beginning, as all interviews probably kind of start out, how you got into this, that kind of stuff. And then we'll get into the rest.
Well, let's say it started long time ago. Now,
in a galaxy far
yes,
away.
far away. Yeah. No, the quickest way I can kind of sum it up is when I was younger, everybody has those imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Well, my imaginary friends, were very spooky and creepy looking. I always seen them, they were bloody or something was wrong with them. And it was one of those things of, here you are terrified, not knowing what's going on, always under the covers, but they always wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, no, this is not real. And so it was kind of one of those that, I was trying to navigate through life and, trying to figure out what am I seeing? And, the biggest thing that got me was I grew up in Europe. And one of my little jobs that my Oma, which is grandma, would always have me do was before, my dad and then would come over is just walk down to the corner, grab fresh baked bread, lunch meat and stuff like that. The biggest thing was always heard, never talk to strangers. Don't talk to strangers. I'm still pretty young, so I go and do this every day, never have a problem. But this car would always pull up next to me all the time with a little blonde girl in the back seat looking just frazzled and everything, constantly shaking her head no. And the guy, and I know this sounds so cliche, offering candy. Like, do you want to come in? And she's in the back. Well, one day it scared me so much, I ran to my Omas. I am sitting there talking about it, telling them about it. My uncles were all in the police force. They're coming over. And I was seeing this as I'm seeing you, Taryn.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't smoke. It wasn't angelic. It wasn't nothing. And so that always stuck in my brain because they kept saying, don't be telling tall tales. Don't be doing this. That it kind of just put me in a shell because I'm like now thinking, what am I seeing? What the story couldn't have made it. I knew the car, I could tell the color, I knew the seats inside, I knew what this little girl was doing. Mind you, years later, found out that little girl had been kidnapped and murdered, and the guy had died in prison.
Oh, wow.
I was seeing all this again at my age, didn't know what this was, but I was seeing her with the cuts and scrapes and everything. And I'm like, what the hell? And so I kind of closed off for a very long time. Then it just kept getting more and more. And especially in my adulthood, it started becoming very nightmarish. Like, okay, I'm seeing this lady with her throat slit.
Oh,
I'm seeing dirty clothes. I'm like, okay, and she's trying to talk to me. So then I just took a journey for myself. I was trying to make sure, I wasn't freaking going crazy.
right,
Like, we know about mental health issues, and I thought this was like way over it.
right.
And that's when I started, because I started seeing everything in that darker side. And it took me a long time to kind of grasp, because then I started seeing these weird creatures. Like, my mind was making, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Alien,
Mhm.
but they look like creatures like that. And I'm freaking out going, okay, I just lock me away. I'm done.
Yeah,
And so you get busy with life, you keep continuing on, and it just won't stop. It started coming in like a train wreck.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. I finally figured it out. Physical medium, spirit, bring them in. But when I say I speak for spirit, I actually speak for spirit.
Okay.
They're telling me their story. So we see a history book of he was the governor. He was so loved. He was so this, he was that. But behind closed doors, he was beating the hell out of his wife, beating the hell out of his children, doing the things he wasn't doing, but in front of everybody's eyes that we see on pages. And so they're coming and saying their piece. They never had a voice. So I am giving them a voice for them to carry on. And so a physical medium is to be able to bring them in, channel them, talk to them. And I talk to them. And the crazy thing is, I see them as real people.
Right.
So it's like I'm walking going, whoa.
So, so it's not like transparent, or it's not like,
No.
anything like that. Like, they actually look like a real person standing.
Yes. And I don't get the beautiful, if somebody goes, is grandma here with us, or my loved one? Well, darling, no, I sometimes those will come across if they're really nagging and needing to get something, but you definitely don't want to have a reading from me, because my readings can be pretty hardcore. I tried it once. The girl would not let up and let up. Well, it all came out because grandma came and found out her and her boyfriend was abusing grandma, not taking care of her, stole her stuff to sell it for things. And I'm like, and she's just like, well. And I'm like, but you asked.
Right.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So basically, you're like the talk of the skies up there, where they're like, hey, if we need something exposed, we're going to that one, because
Yeah.
she can tell the deep dark secrets and handle it the right way, and it's not all flowers and rainbows and sunshine.
It is not.
Yeah.
It is not. And that's the thing. There are some spirits who have passed on, even if they were a loved one, that you might have really ticked off in life and they never was able to tell you, but they're taking that kind of, burden with them, and they got to release it. And so if I come to you and say, do you trust me? And if you say yes, that's one boo-boo. If I say, can I tell you the truth? And you say yes, you might just want to hold on to your chair, because we're about to go on a wild ride.
It's crazy. And I'm listening to you, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, wow, I wonder who would come through and be like, cuss me out. Like, like, I wonder who would do that. Like,
And it's happened. It has happened. And, there was one, again, we're talking history book stuff. Only
right.
things they want, again, when we're talking history books and different things, I look at it as propaganda. We're selling something to the public of what we want you to believe. But there has been some locations that I've just done readings on the location where they really wanted to know what else happened because we feel like something bad has happened. And I love that because then I go through and they go digging. And a lot of times you'll find things after you go digging.
Right.
When a great example, was at Waverly. Okay. We know what happened at Waverly. And, yes, there are probably spirits that might want to be there, but they didn't want to be there while they were alive. So why would you think they're like happy-go-lucky spirits and they're just having a heyday? We have a place here in Iowa, Edinburgh Manor. People used to drive up at night, drop them off, and disappear and never come back. So, I get what their pain felt like, what the sorrow was, the ones that stand by the windows waiting to get picked up again. And so it's like, yes, you might have, I'm not saying they're bad spirits, but I'm telling you what they really are feeling and because they're trapped in that time of being just dumped, being probed, being, tested, to figure out why they're having troubles, why the mental health, because they didn't know back then,
Right.
So they were all guinea pigs.
Yeah.
You think if you were a guinea pig at one of those places, your spirit's going to be like, hey, let's have a party.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And so when I go in, I'm just like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
You
I,
know?
so, okay. So questions about that.
Mhm.
One, what do you feel about the theory that this is a two-part question.
Okay.
The theory about, like, when they say when we pass, we leave everything, we leave all that stuff behind. Like we move on. We don't harbor those feelings. We don't harbor anything like that. It's all peace, love, and rainbows and sunshine, right? That's one. And do you think that it's actual residual that the residual stuff, or is it more on the spiritual level that you're picking up? I don't know if I'm asking the right way.
No,
But
I see where you're going with this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like, or is it that they need their story told to be able to cross over? Like, are they not fully crossed over? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, um, I want to know those things, because I think about my own mother who really had a really tough life and had a really, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I want to believe that, she's left all that behind and is just, you know what I mean? Like happy living, happy somewhere, you know what I mean? Like I don't want her to be worried about that kind of stuff. And I don't want that to change your answer at all because
No, it won't.
I can handle whatever you have to say. I'm just saying, like, I'll shut up so you can answer.
No, so when we're talking about certain locations, now you got to remember you're talking about places, TB hospitals, we're talking about asylums, and we're talking about during the time that the medical field is not like what it is now. So those spirits that I'm seeing in these locations they're trapped there. They have not even moved on because they don't have that finished business because like Edinburgh, when a wife was acting a little bit not correct, husbands would think straight up, "Oh my God, she's gone crazy." And you go in the middle of the night, you drop someone off, and you never see them, and you die in this location. All she remembers is being abandoned, not seeing her children. What did she do? She's been getting probed, electrical shocks, different things to try to make her not crazy, even if she wasn't. And so these are the stories, the pain that they're feeling, the crazy different things of like that. When I talk about spirits who have, when we talk free will, when you have spirits that have passed on, that have said their goodbyes and things like that, and they move on to their eternal life, that gets washed away because there is that certain closure for them. They're looking for that peace that they need, So when we talk about a lot of these things, if you talk about a woman who was abused all her life, and she doesn't know, is it okay to move on? Because
Right.
she's still in her mind. Her last thought is, what's going to happen to me if I disobey?
Right.
So that spirit actually hangs on to that.
Hmm.
And I have seen it. People say, well, and again, these are what I have seen. This is what I've experienced, not meaning everybody's got to believe or whatever but I can just say what I know is truth for me
Right.
and what I keep helping with. Have I seen some of them move on? I absolutely have, because they know it's okay to.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so there is that difference. And again, we all have free will, but we got to remember when we're talking about any type of emotional or physical abuse that was so bad, even when you were put in some kind of asylum,
Hmm.
you think about the TB hospitals. You got to bring one little suitcase. They took everything from you, and that was the end. You knew you're never going home. So
Right.
you're like stuck in this because you want to go home, but you don't know how.
Right.
So these are the things that, you
So,
know,
do you find these types of locations for you to, or is it harder for you to go to the asylums? And like, I'm going to have to ask because it's my favorite place on the face of the earth, but Gettysburg. um Places like that, like, do you, because I'm the opposite when I go there, and I'm not a psychic medium or anything like that, but when I go there, it's like I feel the peace, I feel the in between the fighting, and them talking about going home, and sharing a smoke and sharing a whiskey and sitting by the fireplace, and you know what I mean, like
yeah.
I feel all that stuff, like I feel like, but I don't feel all the pain and the suffering and stuff like that in places.
Well, the thing is, when I have been in Gettysburg, especially on the battlefield, there's parts of it, it's so somber to me. You
Hmm.
know, it's almost like you're walking on a different realm when you're there.
Yeah.
There are some parts of the location where I think there was bigger bloodbaths that I can hear them screaming and in pain. Again, here they're not going to go back to their families, but they were on the battlefield knowing what they were getting into. So there was that difference. That free
Okay.
will took them there, and they knew that they might not go home. So you had some, and I think a lot of Gettysburg has a lot of residual
Yes.
because the bloodshed that was there,
Mhm.
but there's other piece too, because they went there to fight because of something they really believed in.
Yes.
And so that you actually have that kind of getting on the battlefield. So it's a little mixed depending on different little areas.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your favorite types of places to go? I mean, do you, I when I read your bio, you help, because I mean, I used to get so many private home cases, and I don't get any anymore, you
I
know?
still do. I do. I have like certain months, there will be a whole bunch,
Yeah.
and then other months, nothing.
Yeah.
Um, I do a lot of the cases. The only bad thing right now with a lot of cases is I don't know really what's going on, but everybody believes everything is a demon, and trying to get people to kind of see both sides. Now, here's the thing. When you have so much negative energy and it becomes this dark shadow, self-manifested, whatever that might be, it can portray itself with characteristics like a demon, like what you would read a demon would do. So I can see why people would sway to that,
Mhm.
because it is that negative. A lot of times, some of this negative energy, if there you have something going on, the fear, the anger, and everything, you're feeding into it. So now you're manifesting your own monster.
Right.
And it's hard to fight your own monster
Yeah.
because you have to see what's going on with you to help that situation. And that's kind of what I've been getting the calls with. People are so lost right now. People are filled with so much anger and hate
Oh,
that it's like becoming a big swirly thing that, when we talk spiritual warfare, we've been in this for a very long time. No matter what your belief system is, there is that type of spiritual war going. So, it's just kind of manifesting more and more and trying to filter through those.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Crap, I had a question. Here is my ADHD. Um, there's a couple questions. So while I'm thinking,
Yeah.
let me bring up. So Ray says, Michelle, do you remember what you picked up at Mid Orange Correctional Facility?
I absolutely do, and it still has me really super puzzled, um, because we were catching some things that, they were saying, "Oh, there's great spirits, you get a lot of communication." When I went through there, I'm like, "Oh, hell no." So it so it started becoming a thing, and the crazy thing is we had some people there with us. They went the next day, went to go get food and stuff, and found out some of the stuff I was picking up and they were picking up and everything else was actually a real story that was transpiring there. And again, the facility was different. I did heard about the one, I noticed a kid took his life, but I didn't know how, and got that verified, but they said he did it on his own, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing some other people, but they were adults. So there is that kind of mix of different things when you're talking about drugs, inmates, things like that. They're not all sitting around in a circle doing kumbaya.
Right, right, right. I remember what I was going to say. So the private homes. I mean, don't you think a lot of what's going on with these people and being so afraid everything's a demon is because of all of the, you used the word earlier, but I'm going to use it differently, but propaganda, like all the YouTube channels that everything's a demon. You got ghost adventures. I don't care if you like them or not, everything's a
He's a
demon.
demon. Yep.
I mean, you have, and a lot of these people, I believe, and I think, they kind of try to figure out what's happening on their own. So they're doing a lot of Googling. They're doing a lot of this and that. So do you think that that kind of plays a part, and
Oh
it makes
yeah,
your job harder when you're going into these places because once they have something in their mind, it's
absolutely.
so hard to unwind that and start back at the beginning.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, you said it, you nailed it. I mean, you think about all the social media, all the news outlets, everything, all get fed all day long is negative news, negative anything.
100%.
I tried this little thing on Facebook. It was really crazy. I put something, it wasn't super negative and it wasn't like being mean to anybody, but it was just not my normal thing. Oh, people were jumping on that and just feeding off of it.
Oh,
Then I posted something that I normally would, something positive, letting people know, hey, we've got this and all that. There,
nothing.
nobody. And
It's
I'm
so
like,
crazy. It's so crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
but that kind of told me, okay, this is what you're working with. This is how this looks. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those, but it continues to constantly fix on the negative, negative this, negative that. And what happens is we're now starting to build all these, I would call them like the black holes, because now everybody's kind of in there. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Problematic biospirit says they're focused on the negative, so they will see more of the negative. If your
Yeah,
true intent is serving and trying to be kind, you will see more miracles.
absolutely. And
Um,
I did see one about the Gettysburg one. Yes, they are absolutely right that there was a lot that didn't have the choice,
yeah.
but there were a big chunk of them that did. They
Right.
chose one side or the other.
I
That's why
mean,
it was brother against brother and stuff
right.
like that.
So,
So,
yeah.
so it's kind of a mix of it.
I mean,
So I just,
General Lee chose. I mean, he was asked to fight for the Union Army. If anybody doesn't know this part about it, but General Lee originally was asked by Lincoln to lead the Union Army, and he said, "No, I am going to stick with my state, my country, the
yeah,
Confederacy, and I'm going to fight for for Virginia." You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because that's what he believed in. So he was one of the people. But you're right. A lot of people did choose to fight. And there were people that were forced to. They were
correct,
enslaved,
correct.
or they were, you know what I mean. But there were. It was both, and you're right, and that's why it was brother against brother. I mean, the Culp family had a brother against a brother. One of them went
Yes.
to the Confederacy, and one of them stayed with the Union. And you know what I mean. So it definitely was a mixture for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Here's another question. Scarborough, gatekeeper. One thing I'm curious about. is if someone is having Alzheimer's or dementia when they passed, do spirits who come through still suffer those conditions?
So I personally have not ran into something like that to know if they might have had Alzheimer or dementia. Because when I do run into some spirits, there are a lot of them that are so confused. You could maybe say that's what's happening, but I could not say for sure if that is true. I would want, my personal feeling is I would hope if somebody is suffering all of that, I feel like, the higher power right up there is giving them, I know it sounds awful. And again, guys, this is my opinion only, starting to take away what could have been bad memories to get them ready for their next stage. So when they do go to their eternal life, they actually have the peace and everything they want. I think sometimes the Alzheimer and dementia affects us as the families more than it affects the person, because now everything is getting wiped out so they can actually get that eternal peace. And
Mhm.
again, everybody, this is my opinion and my feeling only. So
Right. Well,
it's not in the book.
I'm probably going to say something that isn't the popular opinion as well regarding this, but I've always said that when I get older, if I ever make it old enough to be like old,
Yeah,
I would want Alzheimer's or dementia because I don't want to. I'm so afraid to die and I'm so afraid of being alone that I really don't want to know what's going on.
yeah,
Like, I just want to be totally oblivious to whatever's going to happen to me. You know,
correct.
if I don't go quick, I want to like not know what's going on and just be in this happy, you know, little state for as long as I can and not really know what's going on. I know that sounds crazy, but I think I would drive myself mentally insane regardless if I knew what was going on and knew what was happening to me and knew I was coming near end, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. And I
that's
mean, everybody gets their opinions. Like I said, I know the families that are involved in those situations. It's the hardest thing ever.
oh yeah.
You can't, you don't know what to do. And I can understand that. But at the same time, you know, are we looking at it in a different way? Is it because their spiritual body is getting ready? And so it's cleansing itself of everything to wipe it out. So this way that passing is more, of that beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just can't tell, I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, why all of a sudden you're just like, nope, don't know anybody, don't give a shit, I'm out of here.
My grandmother had Alzheimer's and God bless her soul. She never got to a point where she was bedridden or anything like that. You know what I mean? But she was happy in her own little world. She's 100%
Yeah,
Italian. She'll click on, she's watching the Spanish channel, like she knew what was going on. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
she was like living life. She had no idea what was happening. And to me, I saw that transition and I'm like, she really has no clue what's happening. And she's so peaceful and happy and like she has no
yeah.
idea. It's sad for us.
It
Absolutely.
is sad,
Sad
and it's
for us.
hard because they're
Yeah.
forgetting us, or they're angry at us, or they don't want us around because they're scared. And again, with us being, we're physical beings, everything has to make sense to us. And when it starts swaying a little bit, then we have a hard time dealing with all that.
Yeah.
So
Ray is
going
going
night night.
going to bed. Um, it's like only 9 o'clock, but okay. Um, I love you. Thank you for hooking me and Michelle up. And you have a good sleepy. Um, I have one more question here. Um, Ingrid says, "What do they need to cross over?"
So what I have been seeing is their truth has to be told. And I think that's what it is. Because when we talking about truths, we got to look past the picture we're seeing. Because, like we always say, there's two sides to the story and then there's the truth. And so again, I think sometimes they need to get that piece off too. You know, you think of a mother who watched her child getting killed and could never say anything or anything bad happening. And I think what they're trying to do is tell their story of this is what really happened. Just like when I walked into, oh my God, I can't think of the house now. I'll think about it later. Squirrel.
That's okay. I do have to address this comment though, because Julie, while I respect what you're saying, you could have asked me that question. I have been around lots of people with dementia and stage Alzheimer's, where a majority of them it wasn't good. But a majority of them were. I worked in an Alzheimer's unit for 4 years. And also, like I was talking about my grandmother. Now, my grandmother, it was peaceful and happy. She had no idea what was happening. On the other side of that, I've taken care of people where they were bedridden, had no family, and no end life stages of what they wanted, no will, you know what I mean? So they were kept alive at all means possible, which is sad to watch. It totally is sad, but you have to be able to appreciate both sides of that coin. And
Mhm.
so for me, I'm hoping that I'm going to be going through the peaceful, happy part of it. But if not, then I don't know what's going on because I have dementia and I have Alzheimer's. So I have been around a lot of people with Alzheimer's and have taken care of them and have become very close with the families. I have too. My whole life, since I was 17, I've been in the healthcare field. I am 48 years old. So yes, I have been. But I appreciate your comment, and you may have had a lot of different experiences with that side of it than I have. But um, but again, there's good and bad with everything, you know? So, I just wanted to address that. Sorry.
No, no, and we should address that because again, these are opinions and feelings, like I said, that I have. I don't expect everybody to be on my bandwagon, because I'm not sure. You would be more of, that professional because you've been in the healthcare, and so is, the person that wrote the comment.
Yeah.
I can just go by what I see. But again, when I'm seeing spirits, they're already confused, not knowing what's going on, that I would never be able to tell if they did have either one of those at
Right.
that time. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've had a couple people on that have had near death experiences. What do you think about that when they come back? I mean, I'm sure you've heard stories about people with near death experiences and the things that they've experienced when they've almost gone,
Mhm.
almost died but got brought back. I mean, I find the stories to be kind of similar but different. You know what I mean? Uh, they're not allowed to be told anything. That seems to be a consistent thing. Like they're not allowed to be told anything because I guess they can't when they come back. They were, the illusion of,
Yeah.
you know, what keeps us good people is faith, if you will. Like you want
Yeah.
to be a good person, and if we get all the answers, then what? I don't
And
know.
are these the answer? Well, and you think about it, are these answers we really need? Can we handle what truth might be
That's
said?
what I meant to say.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So a
That's how
near-death
it is.
experience, I think is very real.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is I've always heard I go to the light and I've seen heaven and stuff. Okay. Now, again, this is another belief of mine.
Right.
I believe heaven is different for everybody. I believe we all have our own heaven. What does that heaven look like for you would be different from me.
I
Those
believe
couple
that.
of the near-death experience that I've talked to people, which was very interesting, was they said there was no light. It was complete darkness and it was a tunnel.
Oh,
And it was like you were just going in this tunnel forever. And it was cold, and they're like, now this doesn't mean somebody was going to hell. It
right.
just, this was how they were going, and that tunnel they thought represented, okay, I could end up in the light, but I'm stuck in this middle piece because, somebody's fighting to save their life, so again, um, there's been different stories, and then you got a lot that are the same. I mean, if you think about it, when you hear abductees from UFOs, similar stories. And so, you kind of go back and forth. Is it because the stories are out there, or is it the same for everyone? And to be honest, I really don't want to find out.
Right.
Don't tease me with anything. Just, if it's time, it's time. Let's be done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not sure. But when I heard it, and there was a big group of different people working that's how they were seeing that piece.
Oh,
Okay, so that I'd be curious, what was your experience when you died? Because like I said, the ones I've talked to it was black and cold to start with, and they
but I
never
wonder,
knew
you think that's
they were
because,
out there.
but do you think that's because you are either pulled to the hurting and the people that are hurting and the negative stuff, as opposed to being pulled to the light? Not talking about you, but you understand what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you're pulled to help those types of cases. So do you think that's why you get more of those stories about the dark tunnel and this and that, which sounds scary? It sounds scary.
Well, but you think about it, when we are born coming through the darkness before we hit the bright lights. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, again, I don't know if it's really the dark. I wouldn't want to put a label on something like that,
Right.
because again, was that tunnel, that dark tunnel kind of feeling, was that them guiding themselves to the light? I mean, when we're dying, do we go right there and the light's right in front of us? Or is our spirit having to travel to that light?
Right. Right.
So, I wouldn't want to like label it at anything, because it could still be the light itself. It just may be a longer way, maybe because you got to remember, we're talking about spirit transitioning into that next life. I don't think it's like, watching Bewitched, where wiggle your nose and boom, you're there.
Right.
Feel that our spirit still carries on and has to do a travel before it ends up to where it's supposed to be. As I was, looking at different faith base, if you're, talking with, a lot of people that Buddhism and stuff like that, the reason they have a master is because psychic abilities, where they take people who cross over through different doors of life before they hit. And that's why they light a candle for 30 days to make sure they have a light going through those dark areas before they get to where they're at.
Interesting.
So, when you listen to some of that, it has some validity to it, kind of, we experience things differently. And so I don't always think, good, bad, dark, or light. I think it's just what our experience is supposed to be. How does that look for each individual?
Yeah, absolutely. Biospirit, again, I think some choose rebirth. It just depends on what they inherently still have to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, um I like to think that if I can't come back, like, I love how you said we all have our heaven is what we is
Yeah.
our own, right? To me, don't laugh, but it's Gettysburg. So, like, for me, I always tell everybody, like, if I keel over before any of my friends do, Michelle, you're more than welcome.
Yes.
But I am going to be residing at the Eisenhower farmhouse in Gettysburg. And I will gladly talk to anybody that I know from life. And I'm like, just come there, because that's where I'm going to be for eternity. If I can't come back, I'm going to be at the Gettysburg. I'm going to be at the Eisenhower farmhouse in Gettysburg.
Well, I'm so nosy and like to hear tea that, I got myself set up that I want to end up as a tree pod, so I
Oh,
can be put somewhere and, keep growing and maybe be taller than I am now, but hear everybody's secrets,
yeah,
and so
yeah,
I'm like, so I've got that set up because I want to, get back to, back that way. But so yeah, yours is great. Just put the tree next to it, because then we can be
yeah,
talking crap the whole time.
yeah. We'll be talking. I'll come sitting under the tree, and I'll just be like, "So, Shell,
Yeah, what's
That's
going on? I'll be like, girl, I got something to tell you.
all right. So let's talk a little bit about you said that you now how like you said that you help children because that's interesting to me because that you don't hear a lot about that anymore. I used to hear a little bit more about that from like a long time ago, but I feel like the paranormal community has lost its way. Like most of it, it's not about helping people and helping locations now. More it's about what how much money can they make on this and that. And I'm generally speaking, I'm not picking on anybody, but
Yeah.
you here I remember there was a group that I knew of that helped kids, you know what I mean, but you really don't hear about that much anymore. And that's when, I mean, every single person that I talk to that has some sort of ability, whether it be psychic medium or whatever the case may be, it all started when they were little.
So you
And
got to remember,
yeah,
kids, there's nothing swaying them.
right.
Everything to them is pretty much innocent. Their eyes are wide open. They're taking everything in. They are a beacon of light that starts dimming as we get older because now, we're starting to get, work, everything else. So our light starts dimming. Kids do see it. And normally, if there's something going on in the home, it's usually the kid getting it.
Mhm.
You can normally tell if, some of them grow out of it. Not everybody keeps it. Sometimes it just shuts down, or it might come back later in life, maybe never stopped at all. I try to guide them because a lot of it I love. And somebody was putting some about art with dementia and all that kind of stuff, right? I use art for children. Draw what you're seeing. And then we work through that drawing. And then I let them know, does that paper scare them? How does that work? I will, try to get them their power. What can they do? How does this work? But
Right.
not put them down like just because you're saying it, it's not true. Sometimes does it get a little bit to the point, there's a little bit of exaggeration? Absolutely, because now we're talking about a child's mind. It's trying to process what are they seeing. Some of them say, it started off, it looked like a little old granny who would sit on the bed and talk to them and pet their heads, to now it's mad and it's making the bed shake. So, you try to let them talk and draw and show things, and then try to empower them to let them know that we can say they're not allowed to be there. That's not their place. See me later. And so I do work a lot with that because that child shouldn't have to live and be terrified with the stuff going on in the house, because you already have the adults in the house pretty much, unraveling because they don't know what's going on.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, at what point do they reach out to you? Like, what's the a couple questions? The age range usually, if you could give a, like an average, what the age is, and at what point do the parents then reach out to you, and have they gone to doctors, and have they done all this other stuff? Like how does that process occur to get to?
Well, and that's a good question because when we do an intake, we get down to the nitty gritty. I mean, you
Sure.
have to be open or we can't help, because I got to make sure everybody's safe. Um, a lot of times the ones, I mean, I've gotten them anywhere from 3 years old up to teenage years, and just kind of depending on how that looks. Now, people sit and think about 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. Oh, it's their imagination. Those young ones will tell the truth quicker than anybody else because nothing is stopping, or they're not trying to process what they're seeing. They're just telling you in that moment, this is what I seen.
Yep.
And a lot of times they'll say scary monster, or they say it smells like cookies or something, whatever they can converse. Then you kind of listen to that because you're kind of like, okay, you're looking at the age. Now, as we're looking at it as in teenage years, we're also now navigating that. Explain to me how you're seeing it, or how is this happening? Because now we're talking about, okay, you're telling me there's poltergeist activity in the house. Teenager, emotions, hormones, abilities. let's try to start debunking what could be happening on this part before we do all those.
Mhm.
So each individual case is a little different because you have to kind of work through that. We do ask if they're, because there's a fine line with mental health, and we have to be very cautious with that. So
Right.
we do ask. I mean, a lot of kids are getting put on ADHD medicine. A lot of kids are getting put on this or on this. Is there effect because of these meds? Or is it something the kid had when they were younger, then they stopped and now it's coming full force? So it's kind of just navigating, like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah. It's got to be rewarding to be able to help children. Like, I mean, we went. The last one of the last cases I did, was involved three little girls. They were afraid to sleep in their room, so they were sleeping with mom and dad, and mom and dad were um, accepted of because they also said yes, they knew some things were going on in the house. They accepted that they weren't
Yeah.
afraid of it. But the girls were afraid of it and they didn't know what to do. They literally lived in a trifecta of whatever you could think of to like put the perfect potion together for
Yeah.
paranormal activity to happen in this house. They literally had a well. They built the house around a well, so there was a
Oh
well
my.
inside the house.
Oh,
Right.
oh.
It's the first house built by the people that founded the town. There's a cemetery out back. The people next door trashed the land. There was like Indian burials fence. So the Indian spirits are probably
Oh
mad
yeah.
because the way they're treating land. So I mean, it was just this big, huge trifecta of like all this stuff. And so we went in there, and you know, the girls, you could tell when they were being a little exaggeratory and when they
Yeah.
were really telling, what was going on. But what we did was we came up with this, you know, uh, a serum or whatever, a spray, and we told them this spray, all you gotta do is spray it. Whenever you feel scared, whenever you feel threatened, just spray this spray. I was like, and this will protect you. It'll be, spray it,
Yeah.
just keep it with you. And it helped. It helped.
Well, and here's the thing, I do that with the younger kids.
Yeah.
I even tell, parents, even sometimes if you just put regular water
Yeah.
in a
It's
spray
it's
bottle for really young ones,
yes.
have them spray the monsters away, it does help. It does, not always, but what it does, it gives them like some power,
Right,
to start building on that, and that's what's important.
right.
I do make sprays and stuff that I do, like protection sprays, and I
Yeah,
will give it to kids, or I will have holy water or something, and I always let them know it's special, and I always give it to the kids, and,
yeah,
spray it all over your bed. One, when you have the smells, it actually calms the senses,
yep,
and when you're calm, that kind of helps navigate through
yeah.
that. And
I
when we're
mean,
talking
even it yeah,
teenage kids,
yeah,
you gotta remember there's a lot of times that exaggeration, but that's when their brains are already starting to change just a little. And I think they're trying to figure it out themselves, like, what the heck am I really seeing?
right,
So I take a lot of that exaggeration and I try to break it apart with what they've already said because there's truth in it. It's just where is it? And
right,
that's the biggest thing when you're working with kids in these cases is, trying to do because the kids will always tell you the truth about what's happening. You'll hear only half the story from the parents because they don't know what the heck's happening and they got so much going on at once, they forget a lot. The kid sees everything. And
mhm.
so you're getting that whole story. So,
Now,
yeah.
do you do classes for that? Or when you say you help children, it's just when you are called
Individuals,
individuals?
individuals. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't do it in a class because again, everybody's a different individual.
yeah,
And so I work case by case. Now I've had parents call and say, "Hey, I think, there's something going on with my child. Could you talk to them?" And sometimes it's just a conversation. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah,
So it's just kind of like they just need to be heard and not put to the side, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Doug Scarborough is saying the kids of my friends saw scary and really detailed things when they were little. They weren't made to feel like they were making it up or anything. They did eventually work through what they saw. See, but that's good. That's a good um, that's a good thing for a parent to do, not to just kind of brush it off, but to embrace it and try to work through it, like what he was saying. Like whether it winds up being their imagination or not, you know what I mean? You're helping them work through it.
Yeah,
Um,
and you have to kind of work through it because, again, when a child is in a situation, when we're talking younger children, one, they're really terrified. They're trying to figure out what they're seeing, just like I did, and when there's a lot going on in a house, if there are things going on, now you got family members, they're probably bickering at each other or they're doing this. Now you're adding that kind of negative to them too. So a child is trying. And when for some reason I have this great connection with them because I understand their story. And so then when we're talking about, drawing on paper or telling me a story or what did this look like or what did you say, it just starts pouring out and I let them cry. I'm like, I let them hit pillows, if they're angry because they're not getting sleep, it's just, it's so important because these children are in these homes when you get the calls. And a lot of times, sometimes, like I said, a lot of it's self-manifested. And so when they're not able to do that, then that's when the children start getting more. I mean, I had a 2-year-old that would go by a stair and just start screaming, and all she kept doing was screaming, monster, 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 but didn't have enough verbiage to try to like explain it. So, what I brought toys out. I was like, show me which one's the monster, and things
right,
like
right.
just trying to be on that level.
Yeah,
And taking her outside, she felt better and was happy. And she goes, monster gone. So was really trying to navigate. You got a 2-year-old that is just freaking terrified. I mean, you could see this color and
aw,
it was breaking my heart. But we got through it.
that's good.
Good.
That's awesome, and it's gotta make you feel good, you know?
It does, but you never know, it can come back. Like I said, I just knew how I felt, and that's kind of what I use to help me.
Biospirit, I'm hypersensitive and it caused a lot of challenges in my life, especially as a man. I used to have a few crazy experiences when I was little with other spirits and would see a pitch black dog at random times. Eeh, that would scare me. And then he says, as an adult, it was a very little ghost experiences, but the hypersensitive stuff never went away. Like the thought it would, like I thought it would. And I can get so drained by crowds, for example, and I sometimes hated myself. Yeah, it's really,
Definitely need to wear protection because that sounds like a super duper empath. And bless your heart, you're nothing but a walking sponge.
yeah.
Oh,
I also want to say to my friend Tim, he said he interviewing children. He said I train for people to do that in a forensically sound and legal manner. And then he said, I just want to say that he said that there are a lot of proper peer reviewed papers about interviewing children. Cognitive development must be paid attention to.
yeah,
And yeah, I agree there.
yeah.
Um, um, so we talked about a lot. Is there anything that we didn't talk about yet before we move on to what you got coming up? Because I
I,
know we went kind of down. We talked about a lot of stuff somehow.
you know what? It kind of all intertwined. I hope it was good for the listeners, or they're all sitting there going, "Where are we at now?" Uh, but you get to the point, because like I said, it's just hard because when I get talking about stuff, and especially because I am very passionate, because it was like I found my way. I was just kind of one of those, we just need to be helping. And again, not everything's demons.
Right.
Not everything has got to be blamed on spirit because sometimes it's not. The biggest thing when I teach classes of, kind of helping yourself is the biggest thing is you got to look at yourself first, and then we can go from the outside to see what's going on. It could be past trauma. It could be anything that has just been building and building. And again, The biggest thing I've seen is self-manifestation of our own monsters.
Right.
And those are the worst because they will react as the shadow, as that oppression, and things like that. So, kind of working through those, and then seeing things the way I've seen them, it started making sense to me. I have worked with the churches because of that. No demons. And, not saying there's not demons out there, guys. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they're not around 24. They're around 24/7, but they're not sitting there possessing everybody
Right.
at once.
Have you ever had to refer a case out because you found that it was either a psychological thing or
Oh, absolutely.
something,
Yes. So we go through all of that, and we do ask those kind of questions because, again, when we're talking about people talking about possession or oppression, anything like that, we got to make sure, because you got to remember when, the churches used to do, exorcisms, like throwing out candy at a parade.
Right.
And because it's that fine line with mental health, you've got to be able to know that and different navigate through it, because you could hurt someone,
Right.
um, the one thing I got to say, my mentor, Johnny, has taught me how to walk away. I can't save everyone, but I thought I could save everyone. I'm going to tell you, you can't, because I found out if they don't want to save themselves, it doesn't matter what you do, it'll never work.
True.
And so I've had some cases that were so hard, it took me down a really dark place myself because of it. And to hear him say, sometimes you just got to say no.
Yes. I had to do that once, and it stinks. It
It,
stinks.
it stinks, but when you lose somebody or something like that, because it was inevitable that was going to happen, but you were doing your damnedest to make sure it's not. And I gotta say, I was in a very dark place because of it, because I was constantly, what could have I done,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, it really, and it kind of like, that was the first time that I ever was like,
yeah.
I can't, and I was the third referral. Like, this woman has been through,
Oh yeah, been
what I
there.
mean? And I'm the third referral, and I for weeks tried to help this woman. I gave her all kinds of things to do, and you can, if you're not going to do it, you're not going to do your part. And I tried to explain to her. I said, listen, I said, if I was a painter and I came into your house, you wanted me to paint your wall because there's this black spot on your wall.
Yeah.
I know it's mold. I'm going to tell you, you need to take care of the mold before I can paint.
Yeah.
If you're not going to take care of the mold, I'm not going to paint, because you're going to be calling me back every couple months to repaint over this mold, because you're not taking care of the root of the problem. So we have to get rid of some of these,
Yes.
natural causes for some of the things, or rule them out in a way.
Yes.
These ways, you have to go to the doctor. You got to take your cat to the vet. You got to do this. You have to do that. Like, you have to do these things before we can even say, and the problem is, what happened was, the first group that went in there was like, oh, you got something that wants to hurt you, and blah, 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 blah. And that just like stuck in her head. And there was, I tried so hard to unravel that, but I couldn't. I mean, it was just, and I felt bad. I eventually had to even stop, like, taking her calls and stop. And that's not like me. Like, I usually will just,
I had a case like that too. I kept saying, oh, she's calling a demon in so she could be mean to me. No, see, the demon's just not going to jump in, be mean, and then take off and have a sandwich. That does not work. But it was not clicking. It wasn't. And it's like, there was other roots to the problem that they were having. But again, we all have free will.
Mhm.
And even though it says, demons can mess with us, they can, entice us, and temptations and different things like that, they can't have you unless you give them the permission to.
Mhm.
So, we are stronger than all of them too. We
Yeah.
can, and especially if you have an army to help you.
Mhm.
And so But I gotta say, you know, that was out of everything I've ever learned, just those little words, walk away.
Yeah.
It's, wow, no one's ever taught me that.
Yeah.
Because I gotta solve that problem. You
Right.
know, I gotta help with that. You know, I've worked on a couple cases of trying to find missing people and stuff. And, you know, I get a little bit of like, I know they were here. This is what started happening. They're showing me, and then poof, they're gone. I go insane because I'm like, I need to know where your body is. Where's your body? You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
it just, oh, it kills me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I end up doing it. But
Yeah.
damn it.
And you're like, oh, I know it killed me because the woman was sweet, but
Yeah.
there was just she just wouldn't listen. She just would not listen to me. I said to her, I go, listen, you gotta forget about what anybody else has said. We're starting over, but she couldn't even do that.
No.
She already had it in her head that she got. I don't know from TV or from the group that anything electrical that happened was her late husband who they hated each other. So she thought that he was, you know, haunting her and hate, and, and this and that. So,
Yeah.
she had lamps that would, flicker. She thought that the lamps were him. And she went to the doctor's office. And when she was in the doctor's office, the electric went out and came back on. So she thought he was there. So it's like, it was just this whole big,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and then she sent me the stuff that the first team did, how they got she claimed that they got demonic voices and they got this orbs and this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I listened to all the EVPs open mindedly. I looked at all the pictures open mindedly, and there was nothing. Like the EVPs were spirit box answers. They weren't really
Yeah.
EVPs. They were spirit box answers that
Yeah.
and the pictures. I could explain the pictures, but trying to somebody that already has that in their head. So finally I was like, what do you want from me? Do you want me just to say I agree with you, or do you want help? Like, what do you want? Because you're not
Yeah.
listening to me. You're trying to convince me that what is happening is what this first group said is happening. You're not coming to me for help. You're trying to I even called in somebody else to help me. I don't know if you know Beth O'Brien, but I was like, Beth, come, I need help. Can you talk to this woman?
Yeah.
Try to explain it to her in a different way than what I'm explaining it to her. You know what I mean? And even she couldn't. So we
Well,
had.
that's one of my first questions when they do call. Have you had any other teams in there? How
Yep.
many?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
when they start saying they've had a whole bunch, I'm like, you know, at this point, I'm not going to be able to, because that already tells me when I walk through that door, it does not matter what I say or anything. It's not going to take. And it's really sad,
it
you
is.
know, but for some reason, you know, I call it the zombie apocalypse. You know, it's like after you get so much and you're just like this, that's where it stays. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's,
I even asked if clergy has been involved, and in this case, there was. They came in, somebody came in.
yeah,
I find out what church. I find out, who paid
yeah,
to do it and everything, and so I'm like, I said third, fourth person, because she reached out to somebody else, and she said, well, the first team they just ignored me, and then so she kind of pulled me in a little bit because I felt bad for her, but
yeah.
I was at a point where I was like, there's nothing I can
There's
do.
nothing. Yeah.
And she was like 8 hours away from me. So it's not like I could go out there. I wouldn't have gone out there anyway without,
Yeah.
it was, I feel bad about it, but there was nothing I could
But
do.
there's a time because you couldn't feed into it anymore, because then that can become very dangerous if you keep feeding into it, because then it can make it worse, that it can actually cause pretty much a
Oh yeah.
psychotic break,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's not going to know what's real anymore because she's just going by everything that keeps feeding.
And I
And
think
that
that's
can be
what was
dangerous for
happening.
her too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what was happening. I mean, she kept saying that something was jumping on bed in bed with her at night, and
Yeah.
and she said she had bruises, and I'm like, well, have you been to the doctor to like see if you have anemia? That's why you bruise so
Yeah.
easily, or you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to give her these. You know,
And they just don't. They're like, oh yes, I've done it. Oh yes, I've done it. Oh yes, I've
oh,
done
no,
it.
no. She's like, no, I need my son to take me to the doctors. I haven't been able to go. You know, she's like, my cat is ripping its hair out. And I'm like, well, take your cat to the vet. Like you have to, like you can't just automatically think something's attacking your cat. You have to take your cat to the vet, please. For God,
I
for
think spirits are afraid of cats too, because the cats will tear up a spirit.
I eventually said that. I was like, in Egyptian folklore, back in the Egyptian times, they worshipped cats because it's
Yeah.
known that they keep spirits away. So
Yep.
I suggest you take your cat to the vet. He needs help. I'm like, please take your cat to the vet.
Right.
I don't know if it ever happened, but I guess. And Johnny, are you referring to John Zephys?
Yes.
Okay. I love him. I love him.
Yes. He's my mentor. He is my go-to. Um, we have great conversations because, again, he's worked a lot of cases. And
Yes.
he said that was the toughest thing he ever had to learn was you had to walk away because you couldn't do something. And I'm like, but we all have that, just like you, even though you knew this lady, I mean, you still were trying, we all try to figure out, well, how can we get past that?
Right.
And that's where we would cause more damage than doing good.
Right.
And that, I love it because he's very straightforward with me. I don't sugarcoat anything with me. We come at things different ways, which I like too. But at the same time, I do listen because I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you have to. And you're right. Like if I kept on, I would have made her worse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I was trying to get her to see things not paranormal wise, but see things in a more natural causes for some of the things.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that she wasn't experiencing some paranormal stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but I couldn't get the other stuff ruled out that I
Correct.
thought was medical or thought was whatever to be able to even get to what's paranormal or not paranormal.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So and she started to send me books of text messages and
Been there, done that.
yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm not helping you. And this is not good for either of us. I am so sorry. I tried to help. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It just there's got to be somebody else out there,
Yeah.
to help you out, and I went back to the person that referred and I said, listen, I tried. So if there's anybody else that that can help this woman, I even reached out to the original team and
Yeah.
they were like, well, we can't go back out there because she doesn't listen to us. And I'm like, well, I wanted to be like, well, you're the reason we're here because you told her you heard all these voices and got
Yeah.
these and you're like, he's like saying like this, you told her this was her ex-husband, and this was, like you told her all this stuff, and then you just leave her high and dry, so it was a mess. Anyway,
It's a mess.
what I'm sure you have a lot of stuff coming up.
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
What
And I got, Ray made sure don't forget.
Go ahead.
No, we do have a lot of events. I'm really excited. I got one this weekend. It's a brand new place, old mill, one of the oldest mills. So we actually got that event going on. There's only a couple of tickets left,
Where's
right
that
over
at located?
It's in Bellevue, Iowa. It's Potter's Mill. We have some other events going on this year too. If people just go visit Riverside Iowa Paranormal.org, you can see the events. We keep it really cheap. So what I did was, because we do help a lot of people, I do not charge. I know people nowadays are like, what? So when I do these events, I do 50% goes for historical preservation for the places we're going to, unless they're charging us, and stuff like that, then that's their fee. The other monies we get actually goes into a fund. So when we go to help these families, it helps pay for gas and all that. So we never ask them for a dime.
Right.
So that's kind of why the events came about.
Okay.
I am actually selling tickets right now. A lot of people, I've done a couple of tours where I take people across the pond. to do not just investigations, but also the history, whether it's the dark, the light, and all that. I have an amazing trip. It's going to have a little bit of that Dracula and all that. So July 18th through the 27th, 2027 now, doing a trip to Romania.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
So the great thing is it's through Secret Ireland Tours, and I'm her ambassador that does these things. But what she does is you just put a small deposit down and you can make very small payments. And just like this, not till next July, you're going to be months and months and months, before you have to go to have it paid off. So it fits everybody's budget. We want people to be able to enjoy these. I know December 12th, I am actually super excited about this one. It's flamerypromotions.com to get your tickets, but it's the Lord Baltimore Hotel. Always heard of this place.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, so I'm super excited because I guess we get to sleep there too. Now I'm going to be a chicken, but it's going to be exciting at the same time, So,
I've heard a lot of good stuff about that place. That's also actually on a bucket list of mine for sure.
yeah, it's one that, Ray is putting on. You should see if you can make it because it's not going to just be myself. We've got Ron and Lourdes going to be there. So they're going to do, their TDE and stuff, and with me doing my stuff. And so it's going to be a really great time. I am going to be in Gettysburg. I'm speaking with Johnny again this year.
Yeah.
So super excited at the Bash.
Yay. Yeah. I'll see you at the Bash then. That's
Yay. Awesome. So I'll be doing that. I'll be in Minnesota. I am actually doing a workshop and speaking there for the Boyd House. So I've got that going on in September. So I'm a little bit all over the place.
Well, that's good.
But I love it. It's not like super stretched out or anything. But it's a little bit of different things and a lot, because I do a lot of speaking stuff and teaching and everything too. I love workshops. But I do like getting in and investigating too, just with people, just going in as a group, whole bunch of strangers sitting in the dark, talking and hoping something will answer back. Yeah. Or I ask the whole group, do you trust me? And let it open up.
Remember that. I'm going to have to remember that if I'm ever anywhere with you and you say, do you trust me? I'm like, no.
Well, you should, because I got to tell you, then stuff goes crazy. You want to get EVPs. I can guarantee I can get those for you. But it's just, it's something about when I say, do you trust me? Because then that's that bond. Then I just kind of.
Well, remember earlier you said, one, do you trust me? If you say yes, then everything's coming in. That's why I said I'm going to be like, no,
thank you. I'll just sit in the corner here.
Sounds so much fun. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check out the Lord Baltimore thing. I'm actually.
Yeah, I know the tickets have been selling. But like I said, you can spend the night there too and everything. But I think, with the mix, because I, was at Orange County with Ron and Lourdes, and it was so amazing, the technique that they did with what I was doing and how it ended up going, intermingling with it.
Yeah.
Which, I was like, see, I'm not crazy. They're really here.
Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah, we've been. It's been, we've been lucky the last couple of locations. Sometimes you get those locations where nothing happens and you're expecting the best action, but, we've been lucky the last couple of locations. We caught phantom gunfire at which we believe allegedly, I'll say allegedly because nothing's 100%, but, 99% sure that it was phantom rifle, musket fire, right in front of us. Like, it was so loud, it hurt my ears, made the girls jump. Like, we have it on the recorder. Nobody was there. It was 1:00 in the morning, and we were staying at an inn that was in the park. So you're not allowed, like, we checked all the ordinances, and you're not allowed to shoot between 9 p.m. or to 6 a.m. And you can't shoot within 150 yards of a residence, and you can't shoot on park property. You have not even a reenactor can, without a permit, can
Yeah.
do anything on park property. So, I mean, we asked the neighbors if they shot a gun off, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" Blah, blah, blah. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we tried to do what we could to try to debunk it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we couldn't. And it was right in front of us.
That happened to me a couple of times in Gettysburg on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I was just walking and I about jumped out of my skin because it was cannon fire, but it was crazy because I wasn't the only one. There was a group of people and we were looking because we're like, are they reenacting something or whatever? There was no one there.
Yeah.
And everybody was already out of the park. We were just going to be leaving. So I think that kind of residual stuff stays there. And I think the best EVP I ever caught was they always tease me because I forget to hit record because I'm so used to talking to spirits.
Uh-huh.
I automatically assume everybody's seeing what I'm seeing, so I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, so I was by the cannon and I am being a smart ass, right? Turn it on. And I'm like, well, I'm in front of this cannon. I've got my recorder on. It's facing this way to the woods. So this is probably the way it would have fired. And just because I knew they were going to listen to it. So I was just being just a smart.
Yeah.
They listened to it. Well, while I was doing it, nobody's there. It's just me and this cannon. All of a sudden you hear in the background, fire. Oh. And then the war cry. And they're like, Michelle, you're going to start turning on that damn thing. And Kelly was there as one of the witnesses because I was there just going blah, 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 blah. And we caught the best EVP right by that cannon. And
awesome.
They're like, you need to start wearing a recorder. And I'm like, I forget.
Yeah. And I'm the one out of us, like there's 6 of us. So I'm the one that leaves my recorders going the entire time. And then we'll use somebody else's recorders to do the bursts, the 2-minute recordings and this.
Yeah.
And but I leave mine going the whole time because I find that when we're not investigating, we're just like talking or we're just doing whatever.
That's when you get everything.
Yeah, that's when stuff starts happening. It's almost like they're like, yo, you're not paying attention to me. Hello.
Yeah.
Cannon fire is actually really cool to hear. I heard it once and I heard it was off in the distance, but I had several people listen to it, veterans and my brother I did the same thing with the gunshot. My brother who's an arms instructor with the police department, I mean, they all collectively were like, that is a large barrel, some type of rifle, shotgun, you know what I mean? Like it's not a pistol, it definitely is. And I'm like, would we have, I mean, we didn't hear anybody run. We didn't hear anybody leave. We didn't hear anybody walk away. We didn't hear, I mean, it was just, and they're like, that sounds like it's so close to you. And I'm like, it was.
Yeah. The same with the cannon fire. I mean, I thought it was like right there. And I mean, literally jumped because we're like, what the hell?
Wow.
And yeah, it's
crazy.
It's pretty cool though.
It's cool though. Yes, it totally is cool. I love that. Like I say, like, I'm sitting there listening to my recordings, because sometimes they could be 4 or 5 hours long. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And I'm listening to my recordings and I said, it's like watching a meteor shower. If you watch meteor showers, like, you know what I'm talking about, you're looking up in the sky and you'll be looking up for like an hour or two. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was awesome. Okay. I'm going to keep watching because I want to see another one.
Yep.
It's the same thing with EVPs. Like you could be sitting there listening. You're like, oh my God, I've been listening for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You finally get this, which one of the ones I got, Michelle, the last one was like, shut your mouth. I was like, wow, even in the afterlife, they're telling me to shut up.
Yeah, I've had that. It's like, be quiet. Because I'll start saying something like, this is what they're saying. This is what's happening. Then you hear, be quiet. And I'm like, oh.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right, now I'm awake. All right, let's go. Let's
do it again. Yeah.
All right, give me another one. Let's go. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me going. It keeps me listening. Everybody's like, I don't know how you listen to all that. I'm like, because even if I just get one, it's worth all of my time.
It's worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I've had you for an hour and a half already. Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah, what's this one quick? Is there anything else? Where can people find you? Just shout out your pages and websites and stuff. And Michelle is
Yeah,
awesome, by the way, guys. Go check her out. She's a sweetheart too. She's such a
I am very super nice.
you are. You are. You are nice.
But everybody, you can find me on Facebook, Michelle Ruess. I've got my page, but I also have Riverside Iowa Paranormal page, which puts a lot of our events and things up there. And then I also have our website, which is riversideiowa.paranormal.org. So just so people know that, this makes us a little bit different and easier to find. And again, if you find there, I put a lot of stuff on my page. I always put links up and things like that. So if you follow me, I would love to follow and kind of keep, helping. If you can't make an event, just if you would share an event, I appreciate that just as much, just to get the word out to people that I might not know. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always say this at my shows, share the show out, not for me and not for Paranormal Brew, but for Michelle.
yeah, I shared it tonight.
Yeah. This is why I do this is I do this to help promote people and get their stuff out there. So, if you can just it's not hard. Just share it out to wherever.
Yeah.
And just to get the exposure for Michelle and her events. That Romania trip sounds amazing.
Yes.
It sounds like you have a lot of good, fun, cool stuff coming up.
Well, absolutely. And like I said, I'm doing stuff with Flumeri Promotions. Definitely give them a follow. They got some great events coming up. I might be popping up on some of those events too, getting to meet people a little further out in the East Coast and different places I haven't been too much. Would love to start meeting more people. And I love sharing stories because I think it's so interesting because if you listen to a lot of people's stories, sometimes they crisscross and somebody goes, well, wait a minute, that happened to me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
It's been amazing.
And thank you for sharing all your experiences and talking about all your beliefs and stuff. Because I know that can get a little, because people are so, we live in a very hot climate right now, but
yeah.
You shared a lot of your beliefs and you said that was your beliefs and your opinions and, you give that disclaimer and that's fine. I mean, hey,
yeah.
It is what it is, people.
That's right.
But I want to thank
you. Pleasure.
Yeah. And, maybe we can get you to come back on, after your trip to Romania or something, and we can talk about that and share that or whenever. I don't care. Come on, you can come on whenever.
Sounds great to me. I'd love it. And thank you for everybody that joined us. And
yes.
And I loved all the interaction. It was great, so I thank you so much. And I wish you all farewell.
Love you, girl.
Love you.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. What a great, she's such a sweetheart. She's such a sweetheart. It was so nice to have her on. So just go like and follow and check her out. She really is so nice and, such a good person. With that, people, I'm out. So until next time, sweet dreams.